Well, I'd like to thank all the people that complimented me on my shirt this morning. I don't usually get compliments, but there is a purpose behind it. I don't normally dress quite this well. But today I'm going to talk about our purpose. What is our purpose? And to some extent, I think our purpose is to stand out. And this shirt stands out. These shoes stand out. And I already apologized to the video people. They got mad at me last time because I do pace a little bit. So I'm standing out today. And I think that's what we need to do. Surprisingly, though, a lot of us as Christians, do we really stand out from the world? Do we stand out? Have we figured out our purpose yet? The church's divorce rate runs about the same as it does in the world. We could get on Facebook and we can see posts from people that we know say they're Christians, but do some of those posts really, are they any different than those that we see from everybody else out in the world? Do we really stand out? Have we really found our purpose? Now, I'm not telling you got to go get a loud, ugly shirt and bright orange shoes to stand out or put a really nifty bumper sticker on your car. And those things are great. Those things are wonderful. I've had this shirt for, I don't know, probably longer than I've had Karen. And I'm surprised I have Karen because I have this shirt. But we don't have to do those things to stand out. We have to live according to God's Word. Now, quite a while back, I was down at the Greatest Gift bookstore. And I was just, every now and then, I go in there just to look around. And I found this book that somebody had recommended to me. They had told me that I should buy this book and I would probably really enjoy it. And it was on sale, so I bought it. Now, I got to tell you, for those of you that don't know me, I'm a little strange sometimes. I have my own little idiosyncrasies. And one of those little idiosyncrasies is I love books. That's not real crazy to a lot of people. A lot of people love books, right? Well, kind of the weird thing that happens is I buy a lot of books, but I don't read a lot of books. I tend to let them stack up on the floor or in a bookcase or someplace, and they all have bookmarks in them because I get them, I'm excited, and I start reading them. And I get about a quarter of the way through, and I see a butterfly, and I go off on some other tangent. And then they sit there in that stack or in that bookshelf. But I love books. If you ever want to give me a gift, give me a book. I'll be very happy about it. I won't guarantee I'll read it, though. But there's one book that I can say without a doubt I've read more than once. I've read it cover to cover, different ways, more than once, a few times. And that's this book. Now, I'm not saying that to brag. It's not real impressive. I'm 45 years old and I've read one book a couple of times in my life. Not a real impressive thing. Actually kind of sad. But what is it about that book that keeps calling me back? What is it about that book above any other? Because there's some really good books out there. Any readers? A lot of people love to read. There's some really good books. Books you can get just sucked into and absorbed into. Why does this one keep calling my name? Because it's alive. This book is alive. And no other book that I've ever seen or come across or talked to anybody else about can transform a life the way this book can. No other book can take a filthy, rotten sinner like me and get him standing up in front of a group of people to tell them about how Jesus was willing to die for them. Now, some of you are aware that I volunteer on occasion down at the Wayside Cross Gospel Mission. And the one question I've been asked over and over and over again is, why? Why do you do this? No one at this church has ever asked me that. No one at work has ever asked me that. And no one in my family has ever asked me that. That question comes, I'm sorry, otherwise I got to take off my glasses. I got to lower this thing, get these words a little farther for me. That question keeps coming from my own heart. Why? Why do I want to go down and talk to homeless people? Now, to understand that, you might have to know a little bit more about me. After I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to work for the Orange County Sheriff's Department out in California. Worked there for about 10 years as a deputy sheriff. Got out of that decided to become a private investigator, worked for insurance companies investigating insurance fraud. Somehow, some way, I end up in Pueblo, Colorado, working for the Department of Corrections. Now, approximately 20 years in law enforcement is not the resume that you see of most people hanging out down at rescue missions. In fact, that's more or less the resume of somebody who would avoid that place like the plague. I'd spent about 20 years developing this really good cynical attitude of society and people in general, and a complete distrust. I sit in a restaurant, I like to face the doors, you know, because the bad guys are going to come barging in at any time, take my food from me. I've just kind of spent all those years developing this cynical distrust. And a guy like that doesn't go down to a homeless shelter and talk to people one-on-one, doesn't go down there and preach the Bible to them, doesn't go down there and shake the hand of a man that has obvious mental health issues, who is telling you all about the fact that he's in Pueblo on his way to Texas after hitchhiking from Indiana in the dead of winter. That's not what Kevin Steenbergen does. Well, that's what Kevin Steenbergen thought. A couple of weeks ago, I'm down there, and just as the worship music ended, and I'm supposed to get up and speak, one of the residents gets up and comes up to me and he says, "Hey, you got to speak until 6:10. We've had a minor catastrophe in the kitchen, and we need you to go until 6:10. I look at my watch, and it's 5:10. I have to spend an hour. A prison guard has to stand up and talk to a group of homeless people for an hour about Jesus. I prayed really, really quick. God, just give me the words. Just give me the words. It's not like today where I had prepared for about a 2-hour speech. Not like today. Should have seen the look on some of those faces out there. But I had prepared for about 25 to 30 minutes, like I usually do, and I was good with that. I was good with that. 25, 30 minutes, I'm okay. But now I got to take that and turn that into an hour. Now, as I'm praying, you have to picture the battery running out on the microphone. And now I have to get up. No, as I'm praying, you have to picture. I'm standing in front of a group of about 50 people that are told you have to sit through a service in order to get a meal. So they're not exactly lining up saying, "Oh, please, Kevin, preach His word, preach His word." They're coming in, they're sitting down, and they do the 7 days a week. And I tell them, whenever I'm down there, I tell them, now that takes faith. That takes faith, going to church 7 days a week. Some of us struggle to get here once a week. But as I'm up there and I'm looking at them, and you know, I realize that at least 2 of the people sitting in this audience are people that were recently released to the facility that I work in. No pressure. There I am, talking to this group of people. It's my friend Greg, everybody. He's normally the one up here that doesn't have all the mistakes and everything else. He's the one that's good at this. So I prepared about that 25, 30-minute speech, and I'm praying to God, just give me those words. Just give me those words. And the words started coming. But it fell under the guise of be careful what you ask for. Because something told me that I was supposed to tell them about me. I've been down there several times. It's still on. I'd been down there several times and had never told them that I'm a prison guard. And I knew you go into a homeless shelter, there's a good chance that you have some former prisoners in there. And I'd never brought it up. I didn't feel comfortable bringing it up. I didn't want to put some sort of barrier between us. But I decided to start telling them about me. All of a sudden, it comes to me that God had taken a prison guard with a pretty decent distrust of the human race and given him a job called that of a training coordinator. Now, when I came to work for the DOC, I had no thoughts of being a teacher, no thoughts of ever standing in front of groups of people, didn't like the idea. I was your standard issue human being that didn't really care for getting up in front of groups. But something made me decide, start teaching a class here and there. Started teaching classes just on occasion. And after a while, I accrued enough credentials that I could get this job called training coordinator in the prison. And I thought, sweet, weekends and holidays off, baby. That's all I really cared about. But as I'm standing in front of this group of homeless people, it hits me. God put me here for a purpose. I never wanted to teach people. I never wanted to talk to people. I barely didn't like shaking hands of people I didn't know, let alone stand in front of a group. But God put me there. God gave me the desire, that of a prison guard, to start standing in front of homeless people and talking to them about a Jesus that is willing to die for them. God gave a knuckle-dragging prison guard the desire to stand in front of this group of people today to talk about Jesus. Somehow, someway, a little boy from East Peoria, Illinois, after 18 years, makes it to California, spends 20 years in California, somehow, someway ends up in Pueblo West, Colorado, and is standing in front of people talking about Jesus. God had a purpose. Job 36:5 says, God is mighty, but despises no one. He is mighty and firm in his purpose. Now, we as human beings, we like to believe that we can find our own purpose. We're going to decide what we're going to do. We're going to figure it out on our own. And then, since we're such benevolent, loving beings, we're going to bless the church and we're going to bless God with the talent that we chose. Because we all have things that we like to do. We all have things that we think we want to do, but I think that's pretty arrogant. Because God is the one that put us here for his purpose. Everyone's here today because God has a purpose for you. God brought you to this building because he has a purpose for you. He sat you in that very chair that you're in today because he has a purpose for you. And what that purpose boils down to, it is our purpose to glorify him in everything that we do. Everything that we do. 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it for the glory of God. No matter what you do. There's a couple guys in the church, and I don't mean to embarrass them by pointing them out, but if I do, too bad, because I'm up here, you're out there. And I thought of them as I was preparing all this, and I thought of Nick and Stuart. Now, Nick and Stuart started young in construction, swinging hammers, doing whatever specialty theirs was in construction. I do not have a gift for construction. You give me something sharp, there will be blood, guaranteed. And it'll be mine probably. I wasn't built for that. They started off very young, and they spent years and years and years in the construction industry, working hard. Little did they know, and I'm guessing at the time they swung that hammer for that very first time, they weren't thinking, how can I swing this hammer for Jesus? Oh, how can I swing this hammer for Jesus? But over time, they ended up at the Oasis. And today they're leading a project to redo an entire building in Pueblo West so that the Oasis Christian Church has a place to call their own. And because of those two men, the Oasis Christian Church will save probably tens of thousands of dollars that we would have had to pay somebody else or pay demo crews. Money that can be used elsewhere for the kingdom of God. God had a purpose for them. Their purpose is different than mine, and that's okay. Who here had an idea when they were about second grade maybe, what they wanted to do for a living when they grew up? What'd you want to be?
Professional actress.
Professional actors? Well, you're quasi there, so.
Astronaut.
An astronaut. I'm thinking since you're here, that quite hasn't been realized quite yet. Anybody else? What else did you want to do? I'm sorry? Fireman. Everybody had something to do. Larry, I got to know what you wanted to do, brother. Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking that, well, you know what? Maybe they'd do better if you were. But we all had an idea of what we wanted to do when we were little. How many people have grown up and are doing exactly what it is they wanted to do when they were little? Not too many. At no point in second grade did I say, oh dear God, I hope I get to be a prison guard. And please, please, if I'm going to be a prison guard, put me in a mental health facility. Or better yet, a female facility. Oh, the dreams that could be realized by that. Rarely do we end up where we planned on going. So why doesn't life just always turn out the way we want it to? Isaiah 55:8 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." God has a purpose for us, and it's rarely what we dream that purpose would be. We don't think the way God thinks, but we try. Excuse me, I'm sorry. You would know that the week before I'm supposed to preach and I have an important job interview, I would get a sinus infection. So, that's all right. That's all right. But so often we try and take that talent that we want to have, that gift that we want to have. We try and twist it and pull it, and we want so bad. We may even pray for it. Dear God, give me this talent, give me this gift. How often are you driving down the road or in church and you hear that praise or worship song that just touches you, that just means so much to you? Any song, and you just think, God, if I could just play the guitar, I would play the guitar for you. If I could play the drums, I would play the drums for you. If I could sing, oh, I would sing for you. I would sing so loud for you. And then I think of two young men that stand up nearly every Sunday morning and play the guitar up here for us. Tanner and Logan Young. How many young boys, or I should say young men, I apologize. How many young men, when you were, or old men now, when you were younger, wanted to be a guitar player? I wanted to be a rock star, man. I seriously did. I took lessons for all of like 2 weeks. I was going to be a rock star. I wanted to be a rock star. I felt it in my bones. I loved that 80s big hair rock and roll music. And I wanted to be up in that rock. I wanted to be up on that stage. But very few of us actually have the talent and the ability to pursue that. But some do, and it's a gift. It's a purpose. I think of, not to let all the Youngs off the hook, Eric and Angie Young, when they hit those harmony notes, standing up here, and they get everyone out here involved, you feel it down to your soul. That is purpose. And I would ask Eric and Angie, if they look back 10, maybe 15 years, did you see yourself as worship leaders at an instrumental church standing up here every single Sunday? And I'm guessing they would say no, because I know Eric and Angie well enough to know that's probably not where they saw their life heading. But God had a purpose for them. And we rarely end up where we think. Some of us have special gifts. Some of us not seen as so special, but they're still gifts. There's still things that we can do to contribute. Romans 9:21 says, "Does the potter have the right to make out of the same lump of clay some pottery for special purposes and some for common purpose?" God takes us as clay and He forms into these beautiful, perfect vessels for a purpose. Some of us He just still kind of leaves as a lump for a while. But He turns us into this special, beautiful piece of pottery for a purpose. 1 Corinthians 12:15-17. "Now if the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? God made us. God gave us the gifts that we have for a reason. He gives everybody a purpose. And we aren't all built to be in construction. We aren't all built to sing or play the guitar. Anybody that is within about 10 to 15 feet of me during worship service understands the theory behind joyful noise. Okay? We aren't all built that way. And I would love to be able to sing. I would love to be able to stand up here and do this. It's just not me. I was built for something else. I have a different purpose. So how do we figure out what those gifts are? When I was in high school, I took a small engine class, a power class is what it was called. And the project for that semester was to take a small engine and take it completely apart. Every single part had to come off of that small engine. And then you had to put it back together. And at the end of the semester, you had to start that engine. If the engine started, you pass. The engine didn't start, you don't pass. Well, about that same time, my parents' lawnmower quit. And I decided to use my newfound mechanic skills to repair their lawnmower. Because I love my mom and dad. I love them with all my heart and soul. So what good son wouldn't want to repair that lawnmower for him? So I took that lawnmower apart, and I put that lawnmower back together, and I took all the extra parts that I had, and I put them on the bench, because we'd save those later, because you know, if there's extra parts, you're going to need them later, right? And I pulled, and I pulled, and I pulled, and then I went and explained and begged forgiveness from my father as to why I did this. And I decided at that point in time, being a mechanic was not my gift. And then within the last few years, I started getting into Jeeps. Anybody who's been into Jeeps understands that you better learn how to work on them. A friend of mine here told me that stands for just empty every pocket. And it's absolutely true. But I've learned that between Google, my manual, and YouTube, there's not a lot I'm not willing to tackle on that Jeep to keep it running so I can drive to work and make the money to buy more parts to keep it running so I can keep getting to work. But what is our manual? How do we figure out our gift? How do we do that? And our manual is right here. It sits right in front of us. Every house has a minimum of one, probably several. I got probably half a dozen sitting in my stack of other books that I haven't read. This just happens to be my favorite one. But we got to have that manual. We have to be able to get hands-on. We have to be able to get in there and work on that Jeep to learn about that Jeep. We have to get in there and put our hands on a Bible and talk to God to learn what makes Him tick and to learn what our purpose is. Now, we'll never understand completely what God's thinking. My finite mind cannot even begin to understand His infinite wisdom. But we got to sit down, figure out our purpose, read that Bible, and then look. We can't just read the Bible and then just look up and wait. Waiting for my gift, God. Where's my gift? Where's my talent? Where's my purpose? No, we got to spend some time alone. We got to spend some time on our knees talking to God, searching for that purpose. You can't just read and expect it to happen. We have to develop that relationship with God. Matthew 7:7. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be open to you. Now, I've known people that show up here at the Oasis and start going to church. That's great. We love it when people come here to go to church, right? Well, sometimes that just, you come, you sit, you know, and that was me for years and years and years. Called them pew packers. That's what I did. I came in, sat down, got up, and left, and that was it. I showed up at the Oasis, and somebody asked me, hey, would you like to start setting up? Okay, sure. So I start showing up, start setting up. Woo. Okay, maybe I should skip this part. I'm a little nervous now. But start setting up, start getting more involved. Pretty soon, hey, you want to lead a small group? You got to be kidding me. I said, okay, I'll try leading a small group. Leading a small group. Lots of people in here have showed up, started setting up chairs, started by setting up the living room, making coffee. Now, is everyone called to be a small group leader? No, but some are. They started finding their purpose. Sooner or later, some of these people became elders in our church. One of them ended up beyond all imagining, ended up standing in front of you today, and he never saw that one coming. Now let's go back to that book that I found down at The Greatest Gift, and the one that guy recommended to me, and it sat in a stack for quite a while until one day I decided to pull it out. This book's called The Story. Now The Story is the NIV Bible in novel form. It's the Bible in chronological order. And I found it fascinating because you can read the Old Testament and just go, yeah, that's a great story, God, thanks. Yeah. But as I started reading it in chronological order, I started realizing how we as a human race are incredibly stupid. Well, maybe that's a little too blunt. We are incredibly stubborn. Is that better? Because as you read about the Israelites, they're doing great, they're doing great. Oh, we're following God, we love God. And then all of a sudden, they're building golden calves, and they're worshiping other gods, and God is angry with them. And then God sends a prophet, and they say, oh, we're really sorry, God. And then they do well for a while. And this is the story of the Old Testament, and this is us. The Israelites is just a euphemism for me. I do great, and then I have a really bad 20 years. And then I do great, and we work hard. That's what we do, but we make mistakes, we screw up. We lose our place. But luckily for us, 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 9 says, the Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. Instead, he is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. Praise God that he is patient, that he is patient with me, that he's patient with you. And in order to get our attention, a lot of times God sends somebody into our life. Now, it might be somebody big. It might be, some Billy Graham type figure, some huge figure. It might be a friend. It might be a family member. It might just be a stranger in passing. Somebody that makes a huge influence on your life that brought you to where you are right now. One of those people in the Bible, and I could talk about Elijah all morning anyway, but I won't. I'll keep moving along. But Elijah, he's having this conversation we're in 1 Kings, and he's having a conversation with God. And at this time, King Ahab and Jezebel are killing off all the prophets in the land. They're killing them all off. Elijah's the only one left. And you think at that point, even as a prophet, I mean, you got God talking directly to you. You kind of know what your purpose is. But at that point, are you kind of starting to question things? Let's see, they're killing off every prophet in the land, and now they're looking for me. At that point, I think even Elijah starts questioning his purpose. But in 19:9 through 13, but the Lord said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? Elijah replied, I have zealously served the Lord God Almighty, but the people of Israel have broken their covenant with you. Torn down your altars, and killed every one of your prophets. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too. Go out and stand before me on the mountain, the Lord told him. And as Elijah stood there, the Lord passed by, and a mighty windstorm hit the mountain. It was such a terrible blast that rocks were torn loose, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire there was the sound of a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in the cloak and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. Now, I think this is really an awesome example of sometimes how we want to hear from God as opposed to how we really hear from him. when we're looking for our purpose, we really want to be like Moses, with a burning bush right in front of us telling us exactly what to do. Wouldn't that be great? Or Noah. He comes down and tells Noah exactly, build the ark. I want it this big, made out of this kind of wood, this tall, cover it in this. There was no doubt. Now, it wasn't that they didn't sometimes question. You think of Moses leading the Israelites out, and he said, please God, anybody but me. And how often do we say that? Please God, anybody but me. That's a great idea. Love it. Give it to somebody else. But so often, he speaks to us in a whisper. And with a whisper, you got to be quiet and still. And you have to really listen for what somebody wants. You have to make an effort to hear what's being said. Silence gets our attention sometimes. Silence can be uncomfortable sometimes. We don't like silence. We don't like it. We always have to have stuff going on. We got to be working. We got to have our hobbies. We got to be cleaning. Well, maybe not cleaning, but we always have to be doing something. We have to have the TV on. We got to have a radio on. We got to have noise, background noise. We just can't slow down. We even have church to keep us busy. How great is that? Oh my goodness. I'm teaching a small group. I've got to get in here for setup. I got to do this. The demo team needs me. I'm going to go help out on the demo team. We got to do this. We got to do this. We keep ourselves so busy. What? God, you want me to sit down and be quiet? Study your word? Talk to you? That's what you want? But God, I'm working so hard for you, I don't have time for these things. Now trust me, I fit in my Bible. I got the Bible on CD I listen to on the way to all these things that I'm doing. I pray while I'm in the shower because I'm a multitasker. You got to go. But we do all this stuff, and how is that going to work with our relationship with our spouse? Oh, baby, I love you so much, but I'm so busy loving you, I don't have time to spend with you, okay? How's that going to work for us? But we expect for that to be okay with God, and then we don't understand why we haven't figured out our purpose. What is it that we're supposed to be doing? If you have yet to figure out your purpose, you gotta take action. Being a Christian is a verb. It requires action. You can't just say I'm a Christian and then sit down and expect everything to work out. Maybe you don't know what to do. Maybe, now not this week, because we aren't tearing down this week, but maybe we start just by picking up a piece of furniture in the living room and taking it out and meeting somebody that you haven't met before. Growing in those relationships. You sit down and you start growing in your relationship with Jesus, and you ask Him what it is that you want me to do. Now, when you pray for that, hold on tight, because He's going to answer. And it may not be something that makes you really comfortable. It might be something that you really don't want to do. But you asked Him, so I would suggest that you follow through on it. Now, we're coming up on Easter. And when it comes to religious holidays, which one gets all the attention? Christmas. Christmas gets all the attention. Now, don't get me wrong. When it comes to religious holidays, Christmas is right there in the top two. And celebrating the birth of our Savior is pretty good and pretty important. But this week, what are we celebrating? We're celebrating His death and His resurrection. Where's all the TV commercials reminding us of this holiday season? Where's all the sales? Where's, all the parties? Hey, come to my Easter party. We're having an office Easter party. It doesn't happen. We don't celebrate Easter like we do. Even Christmas gets a human mascot. What does Easter get? Gets a 6-foot genetically modified bunny that lays eggs. But that was Jesus' time to fulfill His purpose. Now, as a child, and this is a question I've asked other people too, and I don't know the answer. It's one of those ones that, I'll ask him when I get there. But as a child, do you think Jesus knew what his ultimate destiny was? Do you think he knew as a child that he was going to die? I get yeses. I don't know, because I think as a child, could have he handled that? Now, was he special? Did he know he was special? Did everyone around him know he was special? Absolutely. You go back to that story where the whole family, Jesus' whole family, goes to Jerusalem for the Passover. And they celebrate Passover, and then they take off. And like we all do sometimes, we forget our kids for a day or two. And they look around, and where's Jesus? Where's he at? So they go back. And any parent in here who has ever been in a store, who has ever been anywhere, and lost sight of their child, knows that feeling. Holy mackerel. Where's my kid at? And you go into a panic. And it might be a second, might be a few minutes, but it is a panic. They searched for how many days? 3 days. Can you imagine looking for your child for 3 days? And then they go into the temple, and there he is, sitting there talking to the leaders. Just having a good old time, talking with the leaders. It's nothing to him. But what does he say in Luke 2:49? Why were you searching for me? Didn't you know I had to be in my Father's house? That was a little boy that knew his purpose. I don't know if he knew his destiny, but he knew his purpose at that time. He knew he was going to be a teacher. Now, you fast forward 20 years approximately into the Garden of Gethsemane, and Jesus is praying. And Luke 22:44 says, and being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. He knew what was going to happen. He knew his purpose. Now, over life, does our purpose change sometimes? Absolutely. My purpose has changed dramatically, I've seen. And I think, what is my purpose going to be 10 years from now? Where am I going to be? What am I going to be doing? And sometimes it gets kind of scary because I know I want to be deeper in my faith. I know I want to know the Bible better. But what does God have in store for me 10 years from now? And I'm glad I don't know. Because what if it was uncomfortable? You asked me 10 years ago to stand up here, and I'd have said, no way, I'll pick up all the chairs. Everybody can go home. I'll pick them all up, stack them up, and I'll stack them up neatly. Oh, they'll look good, but I ain't getting up in front. What if that purpose might cost me some of my friends? Would I still be so interested in following that path? What if it would cost me my family? What if it would cost me my life? Would I still be willing to follow that purpose? Now, as we head into this week, today being Palm Sunday was the time when Jesus is coming into town, and everybody was glad to see him. They were praising him, worshiping him, being so excited. But what happened in that span of a week? What happened? Those same people, some of those same people, were now cursing him, condemning him, spitting on him. He went from hero to zero in just a matter of a few days in their eyes. So when you think about, when you wake up on Friday, think about the fact that that was the day that we commemorate the fact that he died for us. He was beaten, he was tortured, he was spit on, and he bled for us. But when you wake up Sunday morning, and I promise you Greg will be back here next Sunday, you won't have to listen to me again, but remember, that is the day he rose from the grave, and he is alive to this day to save us. He died to redeem our sins, and he came back to take us home with him. So let me finish off with this one verse, one of my favorite verses. It's Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Our God in heaven, I come before you today, absolutely humbled by the opportunities that you consistently give me. I ask that your words were spoken today, not mine. And I ask that you touch people in this room. I ask that that we all find our purpose. We all continue to move forward in our Christian walk. And we find our purpose, and we just focus our love and attention on you and nothing but you. It's so easy for us to get wrapped up in the world and everything going on and our lives. And we get so busy with things outside of church, and we get so busy with things inside the church that we forget to stop and look to you for our true purpose. Please be with us, oh God. Bless these people that are here. Bless the ones that couldn't be here. Bless this community, and help us to go into this community and help people to find their purpose through your word and your word alone. And in Jesus' name we pray.